and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I am so tickled. I'm so excited. I have a continuation in my series of the wonderful, amazing men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Today, I have one of their brothers, Mr. Johnnie Moore. He is from the Daytona Beach Alumni Chapter. Looking forward to hearing more about what he's got coming up here. He's got his own podcast that's in the works. So we'll be talking to him shortly about that. But first and foremost, as I always do, I take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we cannot get it back. So I truly appreciate you setting aside this time in your day to talk to me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. And again, it's just a great opportunity, not just to tell folks about stuff, but also you're sharing a great medium here that people can actually hear about what's going on in the world. Because I don't really listen to the news as much as I used to, because it seems always so negative. And so this is a positive way of being able to reach out to people and tell them what's going on in our communities, but also giving them the opportunities to take part in some things that are positive and work toward those goals as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you have a very good point there. You know, the news tends to give us all the doom and gloom. So you have to be purposeful about searching out content that you consume that kind of keeps you uplifted and informed, and not thinking that, you know, all is for naught. So we have to be intentional about what we consume.
Yes, ma'am. I remember someone said that if it bleeds, it leads. So they're always looking for that negative, because that's what we go toward. And as I say, if you're making a movie, you better have some drugs, better have some killing, better have some sex, or you're not gonna make no money.
That's right. You know, that's what the people want to hear. That's what the people want to hear. Well, let me get going. But first, before I do get started, I did mention that you were a Kappa. So let me just ask you first, how many years have you been in the Brotherhood?
43 years.
43 years. And you pledged where?
I pledged, I'm a hybrid. I pledged at the great 𝗙𝗘𝗏 College at that time, Gamma Theta undergraduate chapter. And because we were seniors, they did not want to take us over. So we transferred over and got onto the alumni line. And so we went through that process all over again.
Wow.
And so I was initiated at the Daytona Beach Alumni Chapter, but I pledged both Gamma Theta and Daytona Beach Alumni.
Awesome.
And this was way back.
Way back. Wonderful, brother.
1980. Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful brothers you are. Well, let's get into talking about some of the work that you have going on, because, you know, you gentlemen in the Brotherhood and out of the Brotherhood, you guys just do some phenomenal work. And what you have on the table is you have your own podcast in the work called Constant Noise. Very interesting title, first and foremost. Why did you choose that?
Okay, basically, I see whereby everybody is so enraged when things happen. And then we look back and we realize that somebody killed somebody for no reason yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 5 days ago, a week, over and over again. We have become so blasé about mass killings now. It doesn't even faze us when somebody says somebody took a rifle and killed X 10, 20 people. It's like, okay, it didn't happen here, it didn't happen to me, so it's okay. And gun violence in America is crazy. And by that, I mean not just of what we do to each other, but definitely also by police killings, unarmed shootings, but also in the current political, and again, tell me if I'm taking too long, and I apologize, but in the current political venue, it has been made okay to hate. Mm-hmm. We just had a lady here in Florida, Osceola County, who complained about kids making noise and so on outside of her door. So she went and started yelling at the kids. Apparently the kids may have yelled back. And so the lady got really upset, went back into her house. One of the parents of the kids, feeling that she needed to talk to the lady as opposed to the lady talk to her kids, knocked on the lady's door to say, hey, can we talk about this? The lady shoots her and kills her. Okay? Everybody's wondering, will this just go away? Will this just be another example of she's going to get off because she said she was in fear of her life because the lady knocked on her door?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, Florida has that stand your ground law, and I think that that lady is trying to follow. But I think I read just today, or maybe a few minutes before we got on here, that they're not going to allow her to have that stand your ground defense.
I'm so glad. And people are complaining about she was. I guess the initial charge might have been manslaughter. And I said, but understand something, folks. You've got to understand who the DA is and what they're going after. Because when Trayvon Martin was killed, they went after murder one. The standard for guilt on murder one is different than the standard for murder two, manslaughter, and so on. In many cases, the penalties are the same, but the level of cause and proof are different. So you can get a conviction on a manslaughter charge easier than you can on a murder two or murder one. So I'm not hating on the DA as of yet, because I'm sure this is still an ongoing process where they're going to decide what they're going to do. But I want the person convicted as opposed to feeling good about this person being convicted for murder. I want them convicted for the crime and not for the title of the crime.
That's true. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't end up being another Zimmerman case, because he's out and about autographing Skittle bags and stuff like that. But this whole matter you brought up, the lady knocked on the door and she started shooting. Like you said, we're seeing this more and more often, and it seems like as a country we're lacking basic conflict resolution skills. Like it's just no pause, let me think about what's going on, let me see how to diffuse this. It's just immediate knee-jerk reactions that have very life-altering consequences. So and then it's this issue of I'm 53. I don't recall this amount of firearms in our communities. I just don't recall us having so many guns in everybody's house. I just don't.
Yes, ma'am. Here in Florida, in 21 days, everybody will be able to carry a gun.
Everybody.
Everybody. Now, mind you, this is not an open carry. This is not Texas. So you cannot openly carry it, but you can have a gun on your person all the time. You do not, and I repeat, not have to go and get the training for a concealed weapon permit. Everybody can carry a gun then.
Why does
I'm sorry, as of July 1st, I apologize, as of July 1st.
Why does and I'm just thinking about how I live my life, and maybe I'm just like, I don't see why, like, at all times I would be needing to walk around in this world with a gun. Like, what could, and maybe I'm just blind to the bigger picture here, but it just seems overkill for the common citizen to be walking around with firearms. You hear this story in Virginia where the 6-year-old took the gun to school and killed his teacher. I mean, the access and the no checks and balances, it's very frightening to me. And you're in Florida, and I'm segueing here real quick. Your state is very interesting at these.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to try to be as politically correct.
Please don't. we know it. We know it. We accept it. And again, on that note, we accept it, but we can't accept it. We cannot say it's okay. We cannot say my voice doesn't matter. We have to take the criticism and then take the action to change the solution. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, and that's true. I mean, we have gotten this far because we we take action. But Florida right now is, and the NAACP just issued this travel ban saying that it's not kind to African Americans. But just want to pick your brain for a minute. With your current governor wanting to remove Black history from schools or whatever, and you know, that's a source of pride when you can learn about yourself, you can have access to information about yourself, other people in the community can learn about you. Where do you think or feel that this plight to erase Black culture in Florida is going to go? I mean, are we fighting for it, or should we be all getting plane tickets to kind of help you guys, you know, fight this? Or what's going on down there? Because we're not there.
No, we don't want you to get plane tickets to come to Florida. Because if you get plane tickets to come to Florida, you're going to get a hotel while you're in Florida. You're going to eat while you're in Florida. Okay. You're going to go to the movies. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Okay. Because our governor has said this is all just a political publicity stunt.
Okay.
They don't really care. Nobody's going to stop coming here because of this. Don't even worry about it. And speaking of, myself, my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, and others, we have unfortunately committed to contracts to be here. As I told you earlier, we come in here next month to Tampa. We do not want to come to Tampa. We want to come and see the brothers in Tampa, yes, but we don't want to come to Tampa because we don't want to bring the influx of the millions of dollars that the convention will bring to the state, because it gives the governor clout to be able to say, see, I told you. Black folks, it's all just talk. So no, we don't need you to come, but what we do need you to do is to talk to your politicians constantly, okay? When you send that letter and you feel good, remember how that feels, and then do it again. Because if they get one letter from one person, they feel like I can vote any kind of way, whatever. But if you persist, if you can constantly send letters, if you share that fact that I am talking to this congressman, here's his email, here's his phone number, here's his address, so you can actually mail it for those who don't do email. And then that person starts seeing my voting edge going down. Maybe I need to change my viewpoint on this. Maybe I need to start looking at who it affects, and not just me, not just my family, but families overall. And as I always said, this is not a Black thing. It really isn't. Because in truth, there are so many good white people in this world, okay? So many of our lesbians, queer, bisexual, transsexual, all of these folks have got to see, because also it's not just Black folks, he's also attacking them as well, okay? And in doing that, working together, why in the world would we not see that we have a common ground? We have a common thing that we can work for. So yes, send money to the organizations here in Florida who are working toward doing this. Send books, okay? Well, wait a minute, you saying send books? Yes, why? Because they're going into schools and they are removing, on the word of one person who has no real qualification for doing this, but they're going, that one person going into the library and saying, the bluest eye. Okay, yeah, I know I want to pull it, so, but no, I don't like that. A Black woman, a white man, our kids don't need to see that. And so I would say definitely reach out, do the research, make sure you're talking to an actual and a real organization. So make sure that it's a factual organization. So we don't want your money to go toward the wrong people, because believe that there are going to be some fake folks out here saying that they're doing these good things, but they're not. And you can find that out by talking to some of the major organizations that you said earlier, NAACP and others. And as we move forward, we're going to have to be willing to say, I am taking part in a group. It's not just me. I am talking to my friends. I'm encouraging my friends. And I'm asking my friends, why haven't you talked to your congressman? Why haven't you talked to your local officials? Why haven't you talked to your school board officials? Why doesn't your school board feel like, yes, we're going to lose government funds, but if it's a choice between losing government funds, state funds, or having this, we choose to have this. Not everybody's going to do it. Maybe everybody shouldn't. But we all should definitely have that conversation with ourselves and saying, why are you not being a leader in terms of trying to make this happen?
You know, and I think that's a lot of us as Black folks, we're extremely frustrated with the whole voting process because, you know, we vote these politicians into office based on the promises that they give us. And then sometimes they get into office, many times they get into office, and they don't fulfill the promises that we voted them in for. And, you know, across the country, there's a grumbling, you know, some Black folks are like, I'm so tired of this whole voting thing. You know, maybe we need to, some are saying maybe we need to develop our own super PAC. And then some of us are just saying, forget it, I'm packing up my bags and moving to Ghana. Like, I'm just through with this whole thing, you know. Just,
yes, ma'am.
I'm just through with this whole thing. But you mentioned, you know, writing letters and constantly staying in your elected official's ear. But are there, because I just think that some of us don't really understand the bigger picture. How is it that we keep our politicians accountable to the promises that we elect them into office to fulfill?
We have very short memories, exceptionally short memories of what's been done to us. And we buy into the hype when people tell us that this is for your own good. Trust me, okay? I've been doing this for X number of years. And so these people, some of them are staying in office for decades. And we don't work toward getting them out of office when they don't do the things they promise. And even sometimes when they do make promises, they then tell us, well, in order to get something done, we had to concede these points and that. If you think back to President Clinton, our first, quote, Black president, right? Because he was cool, had the Sykes, the whole bit. And we were going through the crack pandemic. And long as crack stayed in the Black communities, yeah, okay. When it got out, whole big thing. And all of a sudden you had the three strike rule. And the three strike rule said, 3 felonies, bye-bye, see you later, you're gone. And these persons will end up in prison for life, okay? So you've done something bad once, you've done something that you got arrested for twice, but you got accused on the 3rd time. When you appear in court, and Ms. Reid, they wouldn't have arrested her if she hadn't done something. So boom, boom, and you're gone, right? But we consider him a great president. And I'm not saying that he wasn't, but I'm saying that part of his administration should not be overlooked. When we look at other politicians and we see the things that they're doing, we should not overlook the wrongs that they're doing as well. We have to not just say, I'm not going to vote for him, because that's not enough. I'm going to actively campaign against you. I'm going to contribute toward your opponents. I am going to voice everywhere I can and get everybody I can to speak out against you, because I know that you're going to spend millions of dollars to get a job that pays thousands of dollars, because you know that the power that comes along with it and the benefits that are accorded to it far outweigh this. And of course, all this money is being contributed to you by donors. And that's what I believe that the current governor is looking for. He's saying, let's see, Blacks make up 12% of the US population. I'm just using that instead of Florida, whatever, but I'm saying because that's the overall thinking. So if I take them off, so be it. But if I can get the other 62%, if I can get a large segment of them saying, oh, look, he is strong on crime, he's hateful of these queers and these people out here doing this stuff, which is disgraceful. God hates them, kill them. Oh, he's talking about abortion. Let's kill these people who are for abortion. which I never got because you're saying that I am for pro-life, but I will go out and kill somebody because they to make a statement saying, I believe in a woman's right to choose, but you'll kill them and say that you're pro-life. So there's a bit of a conflict for me. I get qualified candidates to run. Don't talk about it, be about it. When we can identify you, we can say that you are, quote, one of the good Negroes, I'm using euphemism, that you can appeal to a broad and comprehensive base whereby we can get these people behind you, get you elected, but then hold you accountable. Don't put you in office and then have you say, well, in order for me to keep my base, I have no. If you're only in there for 4 years, then be in there for 4 years. But be in there for 4 years and do the right thing while you're there. And not only that, but convince your colleagues to do it as well. So get the consortium together, get people working together, and do all the right things.
Do the right things. Yeah, you mentioned a whole bunch of stuff. Let me see if I want to pick a few and
I'm sorry.
No, because there was a lot of good stuff and that are like thorns in my side. You mentioned the 3-strike law, and I've witnessed people that have their first 2 strikes and then they went on their 3rd strike for stealing a bag of potato chips. And it's like, don't we see something wrong here with this bigger picture?
I can't do anything. It's mandatory. I have to. Sorry. Bye. Bang, bang. Yes, ma'am.
I just understand. And then another thing that's really a big issue in me, you mentioned the crack pandemic, epidemic. And it hit the Black community. And today in 2023, we see this opioid epidemic, and the whole treatment and philosophy is very different than how people were treated when it was the crack. Oh, we have to have sympathy, and we have to, get these Narcan. And I was like, but you didn't give us that kind of love and embracement when it was us, and it's just so very frustrating to see the blatant discrepancy in treatment.
Yes, ma'am. It's a medical issue. It's not criminal. This poor baby needs help.
Yes.
Let's send him to a doctor for a week and then bring him on back. And nothing goes on his records. Now make sure we do that. Nothing goes on his records, because this is a young man who has a bright future. Now that young man over there, he's obviously a criminal. You can tell he's a criminal because he has on a hoodie. So yeah, he's definitely a criminal.
Just, I don't know. And you run into people, in our intermingling, oh, racism is gone. And it's like, okay, but that's all right. We're going to get there. Anyways, let's go back to the podcast, because I don't want to get off track, because you and I can talk for a very long time about some issues. One of the things that you're going to talk about, and we mentioned this a little bit, is this issue of drugs and guns, and especially when it comes to Black communities. Now, when it comes to Black communities, and I'm going to say this delicately, but the crime that is committed in Black communities by Black people, some people like to say Black on Black crime, and I'm really not in agreement with that, because what happens is you have systemically segregated communities, and these communities tend to have things like poverty, low funding for school systems. They tend to have very meager housing standards, and this is all a contributing factor to what we see. But we want to dig up, we don't like the fruit, we want to dig up the root, and that's the drugs and the guns. And I love my people. By the work that I do, you can tell I love my people. I think we are some of the brightest individuals, but at the same time, I know that we are not the ones bringing drugs and guns into our neighborhoods. We're not the ones bringing drugs and guns into our neighborhood. And it always reminds me of a story. I had a good buddy back in undergrad, and he grew up in the projects, and he would tell this story of how late at night, because the projects was next to the railroad tracks, a train would come and stop, and everybody knew that, you know, guns were mysteriously being unloaded in his community. I don't know if it's true or not, but somehow or another, guns were getting in the community. For us as Black folks, how do we, as a community, as a collective, start to address this drug and gun issue? I mean, how do you cut it off? Do we cut it off at the source? Do we have the ability to kind of, you know, say, hey, you need to stop this? It's just it's very frustrating, but somewhere along the way, we've got to get it done. Any insights, any inputs, suggestions?
Sure. Okay, so as you stated earlier, so crack and cocaine, okay? Crack will get you several years in jail. Cocaine will get you into a rehab center. Crack was more of a, quote, ghetto drug. Cocaine was more of a upper crust white collar drug, okay? So there was a difference. I didn't have the train, but I had people who came in trucks and in cars who would open them up and tell you, what do you need? What do you want? Don't worry about it. It's cool. And you can buy pretty much whatever weapon that you wanted from those persons. And you also have to realize too, when you look back at real history, true American history, that crack was not something that was invented in the ghetto. Crack was invented and brought into the ghetto. Why? Because it destabilized, okay? People talk about if you take people and you send them back to Mexico, who's gonna do our gardening? Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? Okay? And that sounds racist, but you know, that's some of the thought patterns. But also is that if I can keep them fighting among themselves, because if I need my crack, I will do pretty much whatever I need to get it. And so I'm going to abuse myself, my daughters, my sisters, my moms. I'm going to rob them. I'll put them out on the corner. I'll do all of these things for my habit. So it keeps it destabilized. And because you have a destabilized community, you can keep them boxed in, which is done by not by us, not by quote white folks, but by the government. When they redline districts and said we got to keep them all within this, and then we got to have this thin blue line of police saying that we have to keep the animals in check. We are going to be the zookeepers, and we're going to make sure that they're not doing these things. And so now we find ourselves, as you say, with the opioid epidemic, whereby people are saying, well, what can we do? We have to make sure that all of our kids are being taken care of, but we're not, okay? I think it's great that they have a Narcan. I have 4 of them in my house, and I have 2 in my car, just in case I run into that situation when nobody is actually doing this. It's a junkie. Let them die. Who cares? Okay, that's still somebody's child, somebody's father, somebody's brother, whatever. So you still want to make sure if that person has a chance to live, that they can. And so when we start looking at the importance of voting in non-presidential years, okay? When you vote in a non-presidential year, when I go out to my car right now and I get pulled over, the police chief will decide whether they're going to actually bring me in, okay? The DA is going to decide whether they're going to charge me, okay? The judge is going to decide whether or not to actually hold a trial for it, to dismiss it, whatever like this, and so on. The attorney general is going to decide how the state works toward in terms of applying these laws that have been shown like this. And we think it's not important that we vote for these guys. We think it's not important that we vote for the Board of Education. Why? Because if we're educated, as I say, I used to love that shirt, the most dangerous Black man alive, an educator, right? The same thing with women and so on. That's important. We have to vote all the time. If they can let us, we should vote. If they can let us, we should vote numbers of times. But I know that's not legal, and I know. And even with that, you know, we are prosecuted for going out convincing people to vote. We are persecuted and arrested, and this is Florida. So it's 90+ degrees today. And if you're voting today and I bring you a bottle of water while you're in line, it's against the law. Okay. Oh, you look a little unstable. Are you diabetic? I'm type 2 diabetic. Yeah, because I've been waiting in line for here. Oh, clip. They can arrest you for this, and they have arrested people for this. Okay. Mm. This is a way that they attack us. This is the way that we moan and we groan, but we don't do the work to get it changed. We don't have that constant media focus whereby we're doing all these things here. Hispanics in Miami shut down a major thoroughfare. I mean, they drove their cars at a certain time. Everybody ready? Yep. We're going up here. Okay. 10 minutes. Yep. Stop your cars. Yep. Get out. Sit. And they went crazy. Why are they doing this? What? Unified. Thinking outside the box, playing chess instead of checkers. Yes. We have got to start thinking, how do we get the, quote, majority media to broadcast our concerns? If you look back at the if you go back and look at civil rights, remember what happened when we talked about it, we did all these things and nothing, but when our kids, when our teenagers went out and got beat down and national TV showed this, and good moral white folks said, oh my God, that's wrong. And they joined with Black folks that were working and Hispanics and Jews and lesbian and gays and everybody, and they marched and said, beat us too. Yes. What do you mean beat us too? We're not going to raise our hands in violence. We're going to say that we will do anything, including giving up my life, to make a change here. We have got to have that same kind of focus because we have an identified enemy. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we just can't let it be anymore.
Yeah, it just seems to be circling back, all of that good work that was done, in the 60s with the civil rights movement. You're kind of looking around now like, what's going on. And it's, we kind of get complacent sometimes. We kind of think that we've arrived, so stuff starts to slip in. Stuff starts to slip in, and I think we kind of let too much slip in. And
well, let me ask you a question. 1964 Voting Rights Act. Why do we need to have a Voting Rights Act constantly re-upped for us? Yeah. Why don't we simply have the right to vote and eliminate all of the barriers to it? Why do I constantly need to have to go and talk to a politician and say, please, please, please,
let me vote
for this so I can vote? Yeah. So I don't get that. maybe
just yesterday, what is it? They Supreme Court said, okay, Alabama, they treated you wrong, the Black voters wrong, so we're not going to redistrict yourself. Like, why are we still fighting for just the right to vote? It's baffling. And then, it's more baffling when you're trying to talk to people that are not Black and they're like, we don't understand, what's the problem? And like, we're fighting every day still in 2023 for just the right to vote. Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating that we have so much work to do when we've done so much work, and we really shouldn't be at this place. And I think a lot of folks are disheartened because it's like, how much longer do we have to fight for? Why do we continue to have this battle? I think that's where a lot of people are. So one of the issues that we have when it comes to addressing the needs in the Black community, and you've kind of touched on it, is policing, how we are policed in our communities. And it always brings to mind for me, I remember growing up watching Fred Sanford, and you would always have, Black cop, white cop would answer the door. What was it? Hoppy and Smitty. And Smitty would always have to translate to the white cop, what was actually being said.
I remember that. I remember well. Yes.
But, it brings to mind, is it, is it more effective to have more cops of color, police communities of color? And if this is the case, how do we intrigue more of our community to actually draw to join law enforcement? Because, you know, there's a whole stigma with this whole experience and dynamic with policing our communities or whatever. But just some of your thoughts on this whole element of our communities and police officers.
Sure. So going down to City Hall to pay my water bill, I see a advertisement for police officer, and I see that it's paying, I think it was, what, $15 an hour. Not a whole lot of money to be risking your life, okay? And all police are not bad, okay? But the quiet ones, to me, are worse than the ones who beat me down and shoot me. Because you know that Bill or Susie is a bad cop, and you don't say anything about it, because if you do, you're going to be ostracized. And I understand this may be your career calling, but if it's your career calling, and if it is indeed to protect and serve, then protect and serve. I think it's important that we start looking at police as having the ultimate authority, but they do, because they carry a gun and they have the authority to be able to use it. So in many cases, I think, as you said, community policing. If you know my son, then my son is not protected with a bulletproof vest, but by the fact that you know that he or she attends a school, that they're a great kid, that they're doing these things, so on and so forth. There's no reason for me to believe that he would be a danger to me, because I honestly believe that a lot of cops go into situations and they're scared. And the knee-jerk reaction is, let me shoot them first before they shoot me. I understand you're in a high stressful position, but if you can't handle it, don't get in the position, okay? And if you're gonna put a person with the power to be able to shoot and then say, I'm going to back him or her if they do it, so that I will say that they were in the right, even though everything about it says it's wrong, then do better training to make sure that person is able to be able to diffuse a situation instead of escalating it. If you see some examples in some states, and I don't know which ones right off the bat, but where they have mental professionals that go out with police on calls. So domestic disturbances are nonviolent calls, whereby it doesn't become a shoot 'em up type thing. I can be there, I can talk to you. Well, I'm gonna have him step back a couple of steps here. Let's just sit down. And so what did she do? So why did you stab him? So what happened? So what about, I mean, all of these questions, and giving this person a chance to vent.
Yeah.
I don't have that conflict where I am competing with the officer now. Get out of my house. You can't come in my house. And so everybody wants to get all upset and so on like this and get mad and so on like this. But I also say this, and some people are not gonna like me, but that's okay. All Black cops are not good cops. So we're at the Great Bethune-Cookman University. We're at a football game. And at most events, people sneak in a little libation. And so this gentleman was drinking from a little, not a bottle, but the little thing there. And so white cop comes down and says, sir, you can't be drinking that inside. Like, oh, okay, all right, thanks. Y'all want this? All right. So he starts to put it away. And a Black officer comes down and she calls this man everything but a child of God. All right. She grabs him up, threatens to arrest him. The whole section is trying to get her, ma'am, he's putting it away. Okay. The white officer is trying to, like, look here, we're surrounded by a whole lot of Black folks. Maybe you want to go through this, I don't.
Yeah.
And so gratefully, we asked them, can you please call a supervisor? Can you please get some? Look, we're not trying, We're not trying to do anything here. What we're doing is asking that, can we please not go there with this? And so not only that, but you have many instances whereby Black cops are called to a different standard by police, that in order to fit in, I have to be more aggressive because I can't be seen as showing favor toward Blacks, because we all know that Blacks are animals. We all know they're criminals. We all know. You know, when you laugh at my joke about a lesbian or a Pollock or a Jap or whatever the derogatory term is, think about the fact that somebody's telling stories about you when you're not here. We give them license to do this. That's what happened with 45. He gave the crazy people in this country license to be crazy. He told them it's okay. They got to stop being so sensitive about this. Okay. Clint Eastwood, which I used to love his shows, says Black folks need to stop taking this so seriously. It's nothing serious about this. If you got killed for a reason, okay? Now, I mean, I'm not making this up. This is what the man said, you know? And if you remember what he said about President Obama, about the chin and something like this. But again, it was a smart move. I'm offending 12% to get the okay from 62%, okay? But let's not get it wrong. 62% of the people do not support 45, Eastwood, any of these crazy folks.
Yes.
But too many of them do, and too many are quiet and silent about it. So our police, we have to vote all the time. We have to, when something happens in our communities, we have to work toward getting a civilian board with the power. Have to have the power. Can't just put them up there and say, okay, I think he was wrong. Well, we don't. We did our own internal look at it, and we decided that she was okay. The civilian board needs to have the ability to be able to fire officers. They need to be able to recommend to the district attorney and to the okay, what is it when you haven't filed charges against me, but the DA goes before
Indicted?
Okay, right, but he would go, or she would go to a judge, stand before a judge, and they would make an indictment from that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that person, if that board has the ability to be able to recommend that and has the power to dismiss and fire, it makes a difference. Also, in my opinion, we have to stop rotating. Okay, so in LA, I went to LA. I decided I do not like white folks, so I killed 3 or 4. I was not found guilty, so they let me go. But LA said, we can't have you here. So don't worry, hold on a second. Hey, San Francisco, yeah, I got a really good, yeah. Okay, can you make him home? Sure. And I go to San Francisco and I take up, and they say, okay, don't worry about it. We'll give you a full benefit package and something like this. And so I've done the same thing in San Francisco now. So they're going to send me down San Bernardino, and then they'll send me here to go over there and something like this. You can't do that. You can't do that and actually claim to have any kind of respect for the people that you're supposedly are serving or for yourself, because you know that it's wrong. And this person kills again, or even if he doesn't kill again, if he injures again, it's an impact when a kid sees his father dragged out of a car, put down, face down on pavement, have a gun or a knee placed on his neck. And son is thinking, well, what did he do? Well, I didn't say the right things. I didn't follow the commands. I asked the question, why did you stop me, officer? Yeah.
Stuff that I have a right to ask. Stuff that it's my constitutional right to ask.
No, you don't. You do not have the right to question me.
It is
okay.
Constitution.
This badge gives me the right to stop you, to ask you any question that I want, and do anything I want. And if you don't like it, your family will be dressing up, and they will not be happy. Okay.
Yeah. And one of
It's,
those, you mentioned moving around. One of those guys I just read, he was demoted, released from a department, but he was just announced as chief of some other department. And I was like, what gives? It's
but see, that's why I think it's so important to have I'm not the civilian board, because when you come in as an officer, the police chief may want to hire you, whoever may want to hire you, but before you're given a badge and a gun, and you say, well, I've done my 40 hours of training, 40 hours, that's a week of work, okay? He or she has to go before that civilian board and have the whole record looked at and said, no, we're not going to hire you. But we need policemen. Yeah, we do. But we don't need bad policemen.
yes.
You've shown that you're bad.
Mhm.
And so we're not going to hire you because of that.
Yeah, the whole system needs to be revamped. When you think about it, it takes more training hours to become a barber or a hairstylist than it
Yes.
does to become a police officer. I mean, it's just so much needs to be adjusted, and nobody really wants to say, okay, we have a problem. We do need to fix it and implement the things to make change. So, I don't know. Well,
But,
what's
but wait, one last question. What about demand, though? How do we not, collectively demand that those changes happen? How do we not collectively say, if you have to get out on your street corner and look down the street and see 4, 5, 6 other people on their street corner, and have everybody understand, because we have so many ways of communicating now.
yes.
At 5 o'clock on Friday, we're going to get on our street corners and we're going to do this. And we're going to let the city or the county or whomever see that we will not tolerate this anymore. I had previously, when I had my apartment, I had a drug dealer working down on the bottom floor beneath me. People will knock on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, can I get something? Like, wrong house, guy. You got a guy down here. And so I called, I snitched. All right, I did it. This guy is selling crack. And so he's not hiding it. He stands out here. People walk up, clap hands with the money, clap hands with the drugs, and they're gone. Guys inviting me into his apartment. I've seen the apartment. Yes, this is he. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and nothing ever happened. Nothing. Okay. So again, people want us to be divided. People want us to be on drugs, want us to be on alcohol. They want us to be out here pimping and hoeing. Okay. They want us to do these things because it keeps us down.
Mhm.
And when my son, I'm talking about other folks, when my son comes up, I need my son to be in charge. I need my son to be empowered. I need my son to have the educational and the business acumen to be able to be in charge. And so you will work for him. He will not work for you. And so because of that, we're going to find ourselves constantly in that battle unless we actually start to take charge. Did you ever see the movie Deacons for Defense?
Mm-mm.
Forrest Whitaker. And this is actually a true story. Deacons in a church in a mill town, whereby the mill basically controlled everything here. All the good jobs and so on like this were at the mills. But no blacks could be a supervisor because blacks cannot supervise white men.
Mm.
No blacks could drive the forklift because, again, that was a skill, and blacks were not able to do that. And blacks were not supposed to be talking back and some of this, because if you did, the Klan would come and visit you at night. And so, and they came and visited the wrong guy. And he decided enough is enough. My daughter wants to protest, she will protest. If they come to my house, I will shoot them. I will no longer, hide behind my doors and let them come into my neighborhood feeling that they can do it carte blanche.
Mm-hmm.
And the other deacons in the church and others in the area combined, they had shotguns, rifles, M16s from when they had been in the army before. And they stood their ground and said, if you come in here doing this mess, you will get killed. Okay. They didn't kill anybody as far as I know, but they stood their ground. They had shootouts back and forth. When people started thinking that I might die if I do the wrong thing, there's a whole different attitude in the way that they act, okay? Look at these mass killers. How is it that my son, who is 16, was shot 40 times because you guys were scared that he, with this 38, might kill somebody, but this guy with, with military hardware, you took him alive. I don't get, and you know he just killed 20 people. He just shot them, but you took him alive. And over again, you see that where these mass killers are being brought to trial.
And stopped and got him a hamburger from Burger King or something like that before.
Yes, ma'am. Because the Klan took their robes off and they put on jackets, they put on business suits, and they put on judicial robes. And they are alive and well and living in America.
Well, hopefully we can get it to where we can come together. You know, I always say, I don't know in 2023 if you could get us to do a Montgomery bus boycott like back then, but you know, somewhere we're going to have to collectively get that mindset where it's going to take all of us to make change. So, you know, with voices out there constantly yelling and, you know, people boots to the ground, you know, hopefully we can get there, but, you know, we need to collectively come together for the greater good of all, not just Black folks, but as your podcast will touch on many different people in our society. We just need to all work together to make some change, because the direction that things are going, it's really not a good look, not just for Black folks, but for a lot of folks. So
I agree. Okay.
Well, sir, I'm going to ask you my random question, and then I'm going to ask you to tell us, you know, when the podcast will be coming out and how we might be able to catch it. But let's see what we've got here. Hold on, one dropped out. Let's see here. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, when I was a kid, I'm sorry. Bring it back. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a cowboy. I thought cowboys were so cool. The horses and the guns and the shoot 'em up on the TV and stuff like this. So yeah, that was me.
Times have changed, right? We have a whole different perspective.
On a quick note, 3 out of 5 people in the West were cowboys. Cowboys were Black.
Yes.
Men were white. Okay, didn't know that then, but and we never see it on the news and television and stuff like this. But we were a major part of the West.
Yeah, I can't remember which one, but a lot of the common cowboys that are portrayed on films as white were actually Black cowboys.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Well, sir, when should we be looking forward for Constant Noise to be coming out? And
hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm actually trying to make it a birthday celebration for myself. My birthday is September 15th, and so I am actually targeting the 14th so I can celebrate on the 15th and not worry about it. But I want to celebrate both those days. So we're targeting September 14th.
Awesome. So it will be on the World Wide Web, or is it?
Yes, ma'am. It definitely will. And we're also going to shoot for YouTube as well. We want to make sure that people, and in fact, that's a start. So we want to make sure that people have the ability to be able to see it, to converse on it, and then hopefully contact us and say, I would like to be on it. Now, one of the people that I really am looking forward to, and I'm going to talk to him here in July, is Colin Kaepernick. Okay. And I know that he's a lot more high profile, and just coming on somebody starting up is probably may or may not happen. But I'm as a friend of mine said, we do not get because we do not ask. So I'm going to take that initiative when he comes to that conclave. I'm going to congratulate him on his stand. I mean, I think it's great that you're willing to give up everything for what you believe. And some folks still don't get it. but that's okay. That's
okay.
okay. Yep. Everybody's not supposed to get it, but
Yeah, it's not
I'm
for
so
everybody.
grateful to him for what he did and what he continues to do in our communities. And again, Colin is not a Black hero. Colin is an American hero
Oh,
who has called you out. And you have to see it and acknowledge it, because as someone said, if you don't identify the problem, you're never going to solve it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, ma'am. So September 14th is our targeted date.
Awesome. That'll be your 25th birthday?
My birthday is the 15th.
Oh, it'll be your 25th birthday?
No, ma'am, that would actually be my 46th. Yep.
All righty, dear.
I like older women, so if that's what, yeah.
All righty, dear. All righty. It has truly been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you nothing but success. And I just appreciate your commitment to the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you greatly. Awesome.
And thank you again for having me on your show.
That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.